Somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a ship drifts across the open sea like a sealed metal box. Inside are 147 people. 3 are already dead. Another passenger is reportedly fighting for their life. Multiple countries refuse to let the ship dock. Health authorities are monitoring the situation closely. Rumors begin spreading online about a deadly virus outbreak connected to one of the strangest maritime incidents of recent years. And just before the situation exploded across international news headlines, a famous travel YouTuber named Alex Carter uploaded a video after leaving that very ship. Yes, Alex Carter is known for pushing his content further than almost anyone else on the platform. Every new documentary is more dangerous, more isolated, and more extreme than the last. A few days earlier, he had announced his next destination, Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited island on Earth, a volcanic island lost in the South Atlantic Ocean, thousands of kilometers away from major civilization. No airports, no direct flights, no easy rescue. The only way to get there is by sea, and not just any sea journey, a journey that can take days, sometimes weeks. The Dutch-flagged expedition cruise ship MV Hondius departed from southern Argentina earlier this year. Its route included Antarctica, the freezing waters of the South Atlantic, and eventually Tristan da Cunha. After that, the ship planned to continue toward Cape Verde, before finally reaching Tenerife in the Canary Islands. At first, everything looked normal. Passengers explored Antarctica. They walked among penguins and seals, they shared meals together, took photos together, spent days inside the same enclosed environment, narrow hallways, shared dining halls, shared ventilation systems. Nearly 150 passengers and crew members from over 23 countries. Then suddenly, everything changed. A Dutch passenger reportedly became seriously ill on board. Not long after, he died. Initially, the incident did not create panic. Long expedition voyages can be physically demanding, especially in extreme environments. According to reports, the captain initially stated there was no immediate infection threat, but only a short time later, another passenger became critically ill, then another. The atmosphere on board reportedly shifted from calm curiosity to fear. And then came the detail that changed everything. Authorities began suspecting Hantavirus, one of the most dangerous rodent-borne viruses known to medical science. By the time the alarms truly began, Alex Carter had already left the ship at Tristan da Cunha. But according to reports, only one day after he disembarked, the wife of the first victim also died. Soon after, another death followed. At that point, it became impossible to dismiss the situation as a coincidence. The ship suddenly became an international concern. Questions spread across social media. What exactly was happening on board? How could multiple people become infected? And perhaps most importantly, could this become something much bigger? Alex later stated that he underwent medical testing after leaving base. And honestly, many people online believe he narrowly escaped a disaster. If he had inhaled contaminated particles, touched infected surfaces, or remained on board just a little longer, things could have turned out very differently. But to understand why this story became so frightening, we first need to understand what hantavirus actually is. The origins of hantavirus go back decades. During the Korean War, between 1950 and 1953, thousands of soldiers suddenly developed mysterious symptoms: high fever, shock, kidney failure, internal bleeding. More than 3,000 United Nations soldiers reportedly became seriously ill. At the time, doctors called the disease Korean hemorrhagic fever. Researchers suspected rodents were somehow involved, but the actual virus remained unidentified for years. Then in the 1970s, a South Korean scientist isolated the virus from field mice near the Hantan River. That is where the name hantavirus comes from. Over time, scientists discovered that hantavirus is not just one virus. It is an entire family of viruses. Today, researchers believe there are dozens of different strains. Some are relatively mild. Others are terrifyingly lethal. And depending on the region of the world, the symptoms and fatality rates can vary dramatically. Some strains found in Asia tend to be less deadly, but certain strains identified in the Americas have shown extremely high fatality rates. Symptoms often begin like a normal infection: fever, fatigue, muscle pain, nausea. But in severe cases, the disease can rapidly attack the lungs. Patients may suddenly struggle to breathe. Fluid can begin filling the lungs, and in the worst scenarios, the illness can progress into respiratory failure and shock. One reason health authorities take hantavirus seriously is because some outbreaks have shown mortality rates far higher than many other well-known viral diseases. During the peak years of COVID-19, the estimated global fatality rate was significantly lower than the fatality rates seen in severe hantavirus cases. And that comparison alone is enough to make people nervous. But there is also an important detail. Most hantavirus strains do not spread easily from human to human. That is the key difference. In most cases, humans become infected through contact with contaminated rodent waste, urine, droppings, saliva, dust particles contaminated by infected rodents. For example, someone cleaning an old warehouse, barn, basement, or storage building may unknowingly inhale infected particles released into the air. That is the most common transmission route, which leads to the biggest mystery in this entire story. If hantavirus usually spreads through rodent exposure, then how did multiple people on board the same ship reportedly become infected? That question alone is what caused so much online speculation. Some people believe contaminated areas visited during the Antarctica expedition may have played a role. Others think an infected individual may have boarded the ship before departure. And some online theories became even more extreme after reports suggested that close family members were among the victims. Could a rare strain capable of limited human transmission have been involved? At this point, nobody outside official investigations truly knows. And uncertainty creates fear. But here's another important point. Hantavirus is not new. This is not some mysterious virus that appeared yesterday. Cases have been documented for decades. Outbreaks have occurred in multiple countries around the world, including Turkey. In 2009, one of the first officially recognized hantavirus outbreaks in Turkey was identified near the Zonguldak region. And since then, cases have continued appearing in different areas. Globally, experts estimate that tens or even hundreds of thousands of hantavirus infections may occur each year. However, most outbreaks remain localized. That distinction is extremely important. Since the COVID pandemic, public fear around viruses has changed dramatically. The moment people hear the words deadly virus, panic spreads online almost instantly. Social media users quickly started asking, is hantavirus the next pandemic? Could this become another global lockdown situation? Right now, most experts say that is unlikely, again, because the virus generally depends on rodent exposure rather than easy airborne human transmission. That severely limits how quickly it can spread compared to viruses like influenza or COVID-19. Organizations such as the World Health Organization continue describing hantavirus as a serious but relatively rare disease that tends to remain regionally contained. Still, the internet never stays calm for long. As soon as the ship incident became public, conspiracy theories exploded across social media. Some users pointed to old internet posts that appeared to mention hantavirus years before this incident. Others focused on pharmaceutical companies. One major talking point involved Moderna and South Korean research institutions working on experimental mRNA-based hantavirus vaccines before the current incident became global news. For some people online, that timing looked suspicious. They began asking, if hantavirus is supposedly rare, why were companies already preparing vaccines? But in reality, scientists often study dangerous viruses years before major outbreaks happen. Especially after COVID-19, governments and pharmaceutical companies dramatically increased research into emerging infectious diseases. That includes viruses with pandemic potential, even if the risk remains relatively low. Still, that explanation has not stopped speculation. And whenever uncertainty mixes with fear, conspiracy theories spread faster than facts. Names like Bill Gates, Moderna, BioNTech, and vaccine companies quickly became part of online debates. Some people claimed pharmaceutical corporations were preparing for another global crisis. Others argued the timing was simply coincidence. At the moment, there is no verified evidence supporting claims that this outbreak was intentionally created or manipulated. But the discussions continue growing online. And honestly, that is part of what makes this story so fascinating. Not just the virus itself, but the atmosphere surrounding it. A remote expedition ship, mysterious deaths, a deadly disease, international concern, a famous YouTuber who narrowly escaped, and millions of people online trying to understand what really happened. For now, health authorities continue monitoring the situation carefully. Passengers are reportedly undergoing medical evaluations, and investigators are still working to determine exactly how the infections occurred. As for Alex Carter, his upcoming Tristan da Cunha documentary has suddenly become one of the most anticipated travel videos on the internet. Because now, people are not just interested in the island anymore. They are interested in the ship, the outbreak, and the terrifying possibility that one ordinary expedition somehow became part of a global viral mystery. Whether this story eventually fades away or grows into something larger remains unknown. But one thing is certain. For the passengers trapped on board that ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, this was no ordinary journey. It became a nightmare drifting across the sea,